Welcome to today's deep dive. If you're tuning in, it means you've got that familiar itch.
You want to know what's next?
Exactly. You want to understand the rapidly changing world around you, but you want to skip the endless academic reading and just get straight to the aha
The
moments.
real-world implications.
Right, the broader context. So today we are serving up a massive paradigm shift. We are looking at a complete masterclass in urban transformation.
And this is specifically detailed in Chapter 15, conclusion of the book, Smart Cities, China's Model of Success by Eduardo Moreno L.
Yes, our mission today is to completely unpack that specific conclusion. We're examining how China has aggressively pivoted from being, the world's traditional manufacturing floor.
Into a global technological superpower.
Right, by turning its urban centers into immense data-driven living laboratories.
It's a staggering geopolitical and infrastructural pivot. And Moreno's analysis in this chapter offers an incredibly detailed postmortem on how this was actually achieved and, more importantly, where it's heading.
But before we get into the actual mechanics of this transformation, we need to set the stage for you.
Definitely.
The source material we're pulling from today inherently touches on deeply complex, frequently debated, and, let's be honest, politically charged themes.
We're talking about concepts like state surveillance, immense centralized data collection, and government control.
Yeah, so we want to be absolutely clear from the jump. Our role here is to impartially report Moreno's findings and synthesize his analysis.
We're not taking sides.
Not at all. And we are not endorsing any specific political viewpoints or models of governance. Our goal is strictly to understand the blueprint, the strategy, and the mechanics of the smart city model exactly as it's presented in the text.
We are just here to open up the engine block and see how the machine actually runs.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the sheer scale of the blueprint.
Mhm.
Because I think for a lot of people listening, when a local municipality announces a smart city initiative,
Right. It usually means they're rolling out an app to pay for parking.
yeah, or maybe installing some public Wi-Fi in the downtown corridor.
Exactly. But Moreno points out that the Chinese model operates in a completely different stratosphere. The contrast in scale and execution is fundamental to understanding his thesis in this conclusion.
Because in the West, it's very different.
It is. In the West, smart city development is heavily decentralized. You have a local mayor or a city council trying to scrape together a municipal budget to upgrade isolated systems.
It's inherently fragmented.
Completely.
Yeah.
China's approach is the polar opposite. It is a top-down, highly centralized strategy.
This isn't driven by local mayors?
No, it is guided by sweeping national directives. Moreno extensively covers frameworks like the 13th and 14th five-year plans.
And the new type urbanization plan.
Yes. The central government establishes the strategic imperatives for the entire nation, sets rigid goals, and injects monumental financial and legislative backing.
They treat urbanization not as a local logistics issue, but as the primary engine for national economic and technological dominance. And the execution of that vision relies on a dynamic I found, completely fascinating.
The synergy.
Yeah, the state isn't just building these sprawling digital metropolises in some isolated government lab. The central government essentially architects the grand vision, provides the funding, and clears all the regulatory hurdles.
But then they bring in the heavy hitters.
Exactly, from the private sector to actually lay the digital bricks. We are talking about tech titans like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei.
The state points to a map and says, here is the sandbox.
And the private sector brings the innovation to build it out.
It is a profound level of public-private synergy. The government sets the parameters, and these tech giants provide the foundational architecture.
And since our audience is already well-versed in the building blocks of modern tech,
Things like 5G, the Internet of Things, cloud computing.
right, we don't need to define the terms. What is crucial here is how Moreno describes their integration at scale.
This isn't about throwing a few IoT sensors on a streetlight.
No, this is about embedding millions of sensors into the subterranean concrete, the water mains, the electrical grid, and the public transit networks.
All communicating instantaneously over ubiquitous 5G networks.
And feeding petabytes of data into massive cloud repositories analyzed by state-of-the-art artificial intelligence.
Shenzhen is the ultimate manifestation of that integration in the book. Moreno treats Shenzhen as the premier case study for this conclusion.
Just mapping the timeline is mind-bending. In 1980, Shenzhen was a modest fishing village.
And today?
It is a hyper-connected megacity of over 12 million people. It's frequently dubbed China's Silicon Valley.
It operates as a fully integrated 5G city.
They have the bandwidth and the latency speeds to use the entire metropolis as a live test bed for autonomous vehicle fleets and highly reactive smart grids.
Shenzhen represents the physical realization of those national directives. The city integrated its sensor grid across every municipal boundary to monitor everything.
From multi-lane traffic flow
To hyper-local environmental air quality in real time. That level of foundational infrastructure allows for a responsiveness that a traditionally planned city, one built on reactive policies, simply cannot achieve.
Just visualize walking out your front door into that environment. Your morning commute is no longer a chaotic gamble.
You are moving through a city where your vehicle, the asphalt beneath you, the traffic lights ahead of you, and the surrounding vehicles are in a constant high-speed conversation.
The AI is adapting the flow of the entire city in real time to dissolve bottlenecks before a human driver even perceives a slowdown.
But for a city to anticipate and react like a living organism, it requires an almost incomprehensible amount of information.
And that centralization of physical infrastructure naturally leads to the next massive hurdle Moreno unpacks in Chapter 15, the data itself.
Yes, the administrative brain of the operation. This is where Moreno's structural analysis is incredibly sharp.
Because if you look at a legacy city, information is fiercely siloed.
The transit authority guards its ridership data.
The police department has its dispatch metrics.
The Environmental Protection Bureau has its air quality readings.
They operate in parallel universes and rarely share data efficiently.
China's smart city model mandates a radical, forced shift towards centralization. They construct physical and digital city big data centers designed to rip down those silos.
And pull every isolated stream of municipal data into a single unified dashboard.
The showcase for this in Moreno's work is Hangzhou and their City Brain project, which was co-developed with Alibaba Cloud.
It is a staggering piece of software. The city brain doesn't just passively collect data.
No, it aggressively aggregates continuous streams from traffic cameras, public transit ticketing systems, GPS data from millions of private vehicles, and even public social media feeds.
It digests all of that to actively manage the city's pulse. Moreno highlights how Hangzhou utilized this specific system to dramatically alleviate chronic gridlock.
It can instantly clear a continuous green light path for an ambulance all the way to the hospital by predicting and manipulating the traffic patterns miles ahead of the emergency vehicle.
What's fascinating here is the hidden friction within that utopian vision of efficiency.
Wait, you mean the pushback?
Yeah, Moreno is very careful to note that this isn't a seamless transition. He describes this centralization as a double-edged sword because it creates intense internal bureaucratic tension.
Nobody likes their boss having a real-time, unfiltered dashboard of their daily productivity.
That is the psychological core of the issue. When you centralize data, you inherently shift power away from the edges and toward the center.
Local municipal departments are historically accustomed to operating their own administrative fiefdoms, often with comfortably opaque boundaries.
Right. Suddenly they are plugged into the city brain and subjected to extreme transparency.
Every single resource allocation, every delayed response time, every inefficiency is instantly visible to central command.
Moreno documents genuine anxiety among municipal officials regarding their autonomy and job security.
They find themselves subjected to ruthless, metric-based evaluations generated algorithmically by the smart city platform.
The technology itself functions beautifully, but the human bureaucratic element actively resists the machine.
It is the ultimate collision between legacy, human behavior, and algorithmic efficiency.
But that concept of extreme transparency and absolute visibility transitions us directly into the most heavily scrutinized aspect of Moreno's entire text.
Privacy, security, and surveillance.
It represents the most profound trade-off in the smart city paradigm.
The ambition to achieve perfect urban efficiency, optimal crisis management, and total public safety runs directly parallel to the implementation of pervasive state monitoring.
Moreno's detailing of the surveillance infrastructure is vast. And again, we are reporting the mechanics exactly as outlined in the text.
These urban centers rely heavily on a deeply integrated web of facial recognition software, AI-driven surveillance networks, and predictive policing models.
The book specifically examines projects like Skynet, which fuses blanket video surveillance with artificial intelligence to track and identify individuals across the urban landscape in real time.
According to Moreno's data, these networks are brutally effective at their stated goals.
They have been instrumental in drastically reducing urban crime rates and were leveraged extensively for tracking viral outbreaks, enforcing quarantines, and managing logistics during the COVID-19 pandemic.
However, Moreno explicitly outlines that this architecture inherently triggers massive ethical concerns regarding state overreach, the erosion of anonymity, and the potential for social control.
The capability to algorithmically map a citizen's movements, associations, and daily habits offers city planners and security apparatuses unparalleled leverage.
It creates an environment where the boundary between optimizing a city's logistics and monitoring its population becomes indistinguishable.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If you assume the state is building this apparatus purely for frictionless surveillance, you would expect a total vacuum of data protection.
Right? You'd think there are no rules.
Exactly. But Morena highlights a massive, counterintuitive paradox. China is actively deploying some of the most stringent and complex legal frameworks on the planet to regulate how all this data is handled and stored.
It is a highly intricate legal landscape that often surprises Western observers. Moreno breaks down several foundational pieces of legislation.
Like the 2017 cybersecurity law.
Yes, which introduced the mandate of data localization. This means any critical data generated within China's borders must remain on servers physically located inside China.
Severely restricting international data flows to protect national sovereignty.
Following that, the 2021 Data Security Act established a rigid categorization system, classifying data based on its potential risk to national security and placing heavy compliance burdens on how corporations can process it.
But the legislation that directly impacts the individual walking down the street is the PIPL, the Personal Information Protection Law.
The PIPL is a fascinating piece of legislation, also rolled out in 2021. Structurally, it shares a lot of DNA with Europe's GDPR framework.
The PIPL legally grants Chinese citizens specific rights over their personal digital footprints.
It mandates that corporations practice data minimization, only collecting what is strictly necessary, and requires explicit user consent.
It also empowers citizens with the right to access, correct, and demand the deletion of their personal data from corporate servers.
You are left observing a dual reality, a state apparatus that relies on pervasive, systemic surveillance for societal management, operating alongside a strict legal framework designed to fiercely protect the citizens' data from corporate exploitation and external security threats.
It is an incredibly delicate balancing act.
It's a high-wire act of governance. You have the state guarding the data from corporations while simultaneously utilizing it for state-level optimization.
Let's pull the lens down from the macroeconomic and legal level and look at the actual pavement.
The day-to-day.
Yeah. How does this high-level algorithmic governance change the Tuesday afternoon of an average citizen?
Morena's analysis shows the daily impact is heavily weighted toward extreme convenience and the elimination of civic friction.
A massive component of this is e-governance.
The traditional sluggish bureaucracy has been digitized and streamlined. Citizens utilize integrated municipal apps to file taxes, secure business permits, or access medical records instantly,
Completely bypassing the need to stand in line at a physical government office.
The advancements Moreno details in the healthcare and education sectors are particularly striking. He focuses on telemedicine platforms like Ping Good Doctor and WeDoctor.
These aren't just convenient apps for getting a prescription refill. They are structurally bridging the massive geographical inequality between rural and urban populations.
A patient living in an underserved, remote agricultural village can fire up an app and have a high-definition virtual consultation with a top-tier specialist operating out of a major hospital in Beijing or Shanghai.
It democratizes access to elite services. And in the education sector, the integration of AI is rewriting the classroom.
They're deploying smart classrooms equipped with AI tutoring systems that digest big data to map a student's unique learning patterns,
Instantly personalizing the curriculum to target their specific blind spots.
Beyond the immediate human services, Moreno emphasizes a critical pivot toward environmental sustainability.
Given the staggering pace of China's urbanization over the last 4 decades and the severe ecological toll that accompanied it, optimizing resource management isn't just a green initiative.
It is a vital necessity for survival. The smart city architecture is weaponized against waste.
The book's examples of this are brilliant. We briefly mentioned smart grids earlier, but the way they function is incredible.
The AI actively balances the municipal energy load, predicting peak usage times and seamlessly routing renewable sources like wind and solar into the grid to offset fossil fuel reliance.
And the smart bins, they don't just alert a dashboard when they are full, they actively communicate with the municipal sanitation fleet.
Allowing the AI to dynamically reroute garbage trucks on the fly, ensuring they only drive to full bins, which drastically cuts down on diesel emissions and traffic congestion.
Moreno also highlights Beijing's deployment of vast IoT sensor networks throughout their subterranean water infrastructure.
These sensors monitor water quality in real time and can instantly pinpoint the exact location of a microleak.
Dispatching repair drones or crews before it turns into a catastrophic municipal water loss.
The efficiency metrics are undeniable. However, Moreno maintains his objective lens by highlighting the severe social fallout accompanying this rapid digitization.
He identifies a rapidly widening digital divide as a primary concern.
Because if the entirety of civic life, paying for groceries, boarding a bus, accessing a doctor, or proving your identity, migrates to a smartphone app, anyone lacking digital literacy is essentially exiled from participating in society.
Precisely. The rapid integration of these technologies poses a profound risk to marginalized communities and the elderly population who cannot keep pace with the interface changes.
Furthermore, Moreno raises the specter of massive labor displacement. The aggressive push for AI automation across logistics, manufacturing, and even mid-level bureaucratic sectors threatens to eliminate millions of traditional jobs.
Long before the workforce can be retrained for the new digital economy.
The technology is evolving exponentially faster than the social safety nets designed to catch the displaced workers.
It's a societal tightrope. But even as China wrestles with these massive internal challenges, the bureaucratic friction, the privacy paradox, the digital divide, they are not keeping this blueprint confined to their own borders.
No, and this is where the conclusion of Moreno's book really scales up. China is aggressively exporting this entire model to the rest of the world.
This is a pivotal shift in Moreno's narrative. China has transitioned from being the factory of the world to positioning itself as the premier global architect of urban technology.
The primary distribution mechanism for this export is the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI.
The scale of the BRI is hard to wrap your head around. Moreno documents partnerships with over 150 countries.
And the target demographic for this technology isn't necessarily London or New York. It is aggressively focused on developing nations across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia.
The strategic appeal for a developing nation in the global south is immense.
Historically, building modern infrastructure required decades of painful, costly, and slow development.
By partnering with China through the BRI, these nations are offered a shortcut. They can effectively leapfrog those agonizing developmental stages.
They don't need to invent their own traffic management algorithms or lay their own proprietary copper networks.
They can import highly advanced, deeply affordable, ready-made Chinese smart city packages.
This includes the physical hardware, like Huawei's sprawling 5G networks, and the operating software, like Alibaba's AI traffic management systems.
But Moreno is also quick to point out that this isn't just happening in a vacuum with developing economies. There is a web of high-level international collaboration occurring simultaneously.
The text explores Sino-European partnerships that are deeply focused on sharing green technologies and sustainable mobility solutions.
There are ongoing complex collaborations with U.S. institutions regarding artificial intelligence research.
And fascinating partnerships with Japan, where they are integrating Japan's world-class earthquake early warning expertise directly into the nervous system of these new smart city grids.
It is a highly interconnected, globalized effort.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what Moreno is really outlining in his conclusion is a silent, high-stakes race to set global standards.
When China exports a smart city package to a burgeoning metropolis in Africa or a coastal hub in Latin America, they aren't just selling hardware.
When Chinese 5G networks, Chinese IoT sensor arrays, and Chinese AI algorithms become the foundational bedrock of a foreign city, China is actively writing the global rulebook.
They are establishing the technical standards, the data protocols, and the operational norms for how the cities of the 21st century will function, communicate, and govern themselves.
This dynamic grants them an unprecedented level of long-term economic leverage and geopolitical influence.
They are essentially exporting a complete operating system for human society and getting other nations to download it.
It's a massive shift.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today unpacking Moreno's analysis. Let's pull all these threads together for a final recap of this deep dive.
We started by examining China's fundamental blueprint, a highly centralized, heavily funded, state-driven strategy that leverages deep public-private partnerships with tech behemoths like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei.
We looked at how they are engineering hyper-efficient, sustainable urban environments through innovations like the city brain and ubiquitous sensor networks.
But as Moreno so carefully documented, this ambitious model is constantly wrestling with complex internal friction.
From local bureaucrats terrified of algorithmic transparency to the profound, inherent societal tensions regarding mass surveillance.
Even as the state rolls out stringent new laws to protect consumer data.
And finally, we looked at how this blueprint is being packaged and shipped across the globe via the Belt and Road Initiative, effectively allowing China to draft the technical standards of the future.
It is an unparalleled model of technological and logistical achievement, but one that is inextricably bound to profound ethical, societal, and geopolitical trade-offs.
So what does this all mean? I want you, wherever you are listening right now, to take a hard look around your own community today.
Think about your frustrating morning commute.
The wait times at your local hospitals, or how your city manages its power grid and its waste. How much of the daily grinding friction you experience could be instantly solved by the exact technologies Moreno describes?
And more importantly, if you were offered the keys to that perfectly optimized, frictionless city, what level of extreme transparency and personal trade-offs would you be willing to accept to live in it?
To build on that reflection, consider this final, lingering concept drawn from the culmination of Moreno's research. The stated ultimate goal of an AI like the city brain is perfect, frictionless optimization.
If a centralized algorithmic intelligence becomes absolutely flawless at predicting traffic flows, distributing vital energy, and even anticipating human behavior to maximize safety and efficiency, at what exact point does the city stop serving the citizens and start managing the citizens to serve the city?
That is a staggering question and the perfect place to leave it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Moreno's smart cities, China's model of success.
Keep analyzing the systems around you.
Keep questioning the invisible architecture of your daily life and never stop exploring.